Welcome to the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast. Tonight, Frank Schofield and Public Disco Porch. This episode is sponsored by Members First. And now your hosts, Daniel Kime and Alan McCutcheon.
Hello and welcome to the Central Pennsylvania Music Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel.
And I'm your co-host, Alan.
Coming up, we have Frank Schofield.
And Public Disco Porch.
Stay tuned for another awesome episode. We are sitting here with Frank Schofield, longtime Central Pennsylvania music promoter. Frank, thank you so much for coming out on the show tonight. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Of course, man. We're really excited to have
Interesting little set you have here. I like it.
Thank you.
Thank you. We built it ourselves. We're very proud. We actually did.
Really?
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. I don't want to say we should have like our own HGTV show, but we did pretty good for being amateurs.
There was a conversation that I said it. If things don't work out with a podcast, we could probably start a remodeling company.
There you go.
If you look past the seam together carpets that you can't see on the camera, a little inside information there. But thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We try to put little pieces together as our journey goes on. I think it's coming together pretty nicely.
Yeah, certainly.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, Frank, you've been, as I said, longtime music promoter. Let's talk about that. But first, as we do with most of our episodes, I'd like to start at the beginning with you.
Sure.
How did you get into this? Where did all this start for you?
I was in radio for a real long time. Like, I started in high school in radio. I started at Wink 104 in the radio with the Bruce Bond late afternoon show.
All right.
And I kind of got my chops there, just being in entertainment, producing shows, back then. And it kind of just evolved. And I did that for 6-7 years. We were doing shows in multiple cities, like Vegas, Chicago, all over the place, New York City, doing this and that. And then
This is while you were in high school.
yeah, no, it was after.
Right,
I was like my early 20s.
That's
You
awesome,
know,
though.
the 20s are the weirdest part of it. Do you ever look back
Yeah.
and look at the 20s and be like, what was that all about? Like,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, what was I thinking?
Right. What happened?
What was
there,
even that?
Because you don't make much money, right?
no, God,
and
no.
you kind of just get through it, and you're kind of like, wait a second. So I survived on that, and I made all this work.
Yeah. It's honestly sometimes a surprise.
It's like your second time being a teenager and you don't really do much better.
Right.
That's exactly right.
And then growing up, then radio. There wasn't really internet back then. So it was just, radio was just like, you were kings. Like if you said it was going to snow on a sunny day, like people were like, they were getting out their snow shovels, like really having that because there was no internet. There was no anything like that.
Yep.
So radio was like a whole other monster than it is, right now. So I was really lucky to like be part of that. Be part of that world where I was an 80s DJ. I was a top 40, I just be a shock jock producer and then be an 80s DJ and all that stuff. So I've really had a pretty blessed background, and it
I was
really
gonna say,
prepared.
the 80s are like, I feel like, in my opinion, I obviously did not live through
The
them,
80s
but like
were nuts, man. It
that's
was
what I'm
great.
saying. And it's
I
like
can only imagine.
being a radio DJ in the 80s, that had to have been like such an incredible experience.
ABC, Duran, Kaja Gugu, like all the cool stuff.
Golly.
And then you got into the 90s, and then being music back then, it was just such a blessing. Just to get through it was just so much fun.
That's awesome.
So producing all these shows, it was natural for me just to kind of put that all together to be a promoter, to figure out, how to put a show together and how to do this and that. And so that was kind of my beginnings. I was in sales for a little bit, but then, it really led me to be a promoter then after that.
That's awesome. What I got to ask, did you ever find it difficult to like, you had the skill set
Yeah.
from being a radio DJ, but did you ever find it kind of difficult to like put the microphone down, like to be like, I'm not going to be on the airwaves anymore. I'm going to take the skill set that I learned through this, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to be like in the spotlight, so to say. Was that ever hard?
No, because I feel like it's part of my character. Like I got a couple personalities, and that's just one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's just part of the sales process, Like being a producer or being on air, you just kind of just like, it's all the same process,
Sure.
You want to have a good front. You want people to like you, and you want to just put out and just do what's best for the conversation, and those kind of move through each other. Like the process doesn't change much whatever you do in life.
Yeah.
Good people do good things for good people.
Yeah.
It's true.
And if you're not a good person, then you're a bad person, and then you don't want to deal with those people.
You're not
So
wrong.
if you just put that out and just kind of have faith in what you're doing, good things will happen to you, and that's kind of the way I kind of forged through. So all these skill sets that I kind of developed, they just kind of played into one another, and then you meet this one person, that person helps you out, and then next thing you know, and if you're not selfish about it, you just keep growing and growing, and it's just kind of, you know, the
Brick
step,
by brick,
the
you just
steps
built-
in the ladder just kind of
Sounds exactly like how this formed. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. You're not wrong. Yeah.
and not all days are great, but there's days that are great, but things are hard, and you just kind of keep just, you know, getting through it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But promoting shows is so much fun. It really is great.
So what are some of like the biggest differences you've seen over the years that you've been doing this?
Well, when I started, it was right before COVID. It was probably 3 years before the shutdown. And the shutdown, things just kind of like shut down real quick. And then when they came back, there was a little bit of a different attitude. And there was a little bit of a different, the artist needed you. After the shutdown happened, you know, you needed the artist. You needed the artist to come. So that's when the demand started, and that's when, you know, the prices got a little different, and artists were charging more and more, and it kind of got a little harder for a promoter to try to get his nut to try to push through that. And now, you know, now the artists, they're charging so much. I mean, there's so much. There's not much. The guy in the middle, the promoter, is really the guy that's having the hardest time. You know,
I believe that.
In this modern day. I mean, it's really angled against the promoter. The venue will do well, but the middle guy is always the guy that's really kind of suffering these days.
We always hear, like, especially like on the internet. I mean, you can't believe everything you read on the internet.
Sure.
Surprise, surprise. But we see a lot with like Live Nation, Ticketmaster, like all these extra surcharge. Like I saw this joke. It was like, it's like, oh, you know, $35 for processing fees, $10 for because you can't do anything about it fee, a $15 fee because, well, we're already charging you fee, so we're going to keep charging you fee. Like it just kind of gets like out of control. Like from you working in your position, how much have you really like seen and like how that like is that truly really what it is?
It's hard, and you know the toughest thing is the big shows do really well. You know, Taylor got hers. Like everyone, the big shows do really well. It's the bottom tier ones that are really hurting. And I shouldn't say hurting, but it's just a harder grind.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a harder ceiling to break through
at the club level, and you know, just to try to get that through it. But you got to realize live entertainment is so big. It could be a church. It could be a field, a fair. There's so many avenues there's so many opportunities for people in the industry to get involved in live entertainment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's so many jobs that people don't even think about that are live entertainment. This right here, what you're doing now, this is live entertainment. This is entertainment. And there's so many areas, you know, for kids to get involved and for people to have jobs. And there's just so much more room. And the podcast, how about it?
Yeah, like they exploded.
How about it? Yeah, don't stop. Like
it's such a good time to be in it, but it's such a flooded industry right now. But
you guys are the luckiest in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. You guys just created this. You created your own radio station, your own network. You're up on YouTube. Bam, bam, bam. Back then, being on the radio was something different, or having your own show was something different, where you had to really fight and apply and apply your craft and really have to know someone to get through.
Yeah.
Now it's like. You go to Staples, you get a mic, you do this, you that, you pop it up, and boom. Now you have to have the work ethic.
Yeah.
You got to put through the shows, which you guys are doing.
Yeah.
But you know, you really got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. But you know, now you can really do it, and now it's just so open for everybody. You know, for communication, and it's the same for the artist. It's so hard for an artist to break through these days.
Oh yeah,
you know,
same.
I still don't know the formula. I've done 150 shows or whatever. I can't tell you I know the formula for how to get known or how to pop through that cycle. It's really difficult.
That's funny you said that, because I was going to ask. It's like, you know, you said it was kind of hard for the middleman to kind of like you know get his portion, whatever. It's like, how did you tackle that? Like how did you, like, when you started seeing that happen? You're like, man, like these prices are getting ridiculous. Like, you know, because you obviously I've seen interviews with you and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you genuinely care for the artist. Like you're like, dude, like 11 a.m. the artist shows up. You know, they need things like whatever.
Yeah.
It's like you're not just like they're kind of just like lollygagging around. Like you're there. Like if they need like a doctor, if they need, you know, to get their clothes done, they need a yoga instructor or something like that. Like you're the guy.
Yeah,
so
we've had situations where like a tour manager will call us before going, hey, we need a doctor tomorrow morning. We're in Chicago. We'll be there tomorrow morning. And, you know, Terry has something's wrong with Terry's foot and we need a podiatrist to look at this, or someone's sick with the flu or something. Like these tours, they're on the road. They don't know where they are.
Yeah.
They're out for 2 months straight, city to city to city. You know, they're playing on a Monday night somewhere. Tuesday night, they're in Chicago. You know, the next night they're in Harrisburg. You know, and they barely have time to figure out how to eat or how to do their laundry or how to figure out. So it's really a discipline for them to learn how to live. These are all kids trying to figure it out. It's a tough grind, but they also have to take care of their health. They got to take care of, you know what it's like when you don't feel well. And
Oh my God,
It's the worst.
And then, but you got to go out. You got like 60 days to prove yourself, to get that shot, to get to that next level. And you cannot fall apart. You can't do whatever.
It's
true.
true.
And you got to go out and give, 80 minutes of the best night of your life. And you have to make everyone feel like it's their show. And you have to win over every person that they're going to want to see you the next time. They're going to want to buy your album. They're going to want to buy T-shirts in the back. They're going to want to love you, and it's their private secret. Like, you are their private secret. And that's the best part of live entertainment. I've always said that live entertainment is always the best way to timestamp people's memories. There's no other medium that does it. If you read a book, or if you see a movie, or if watch TV or something like that, that's in comparison. When you go to a concert, whether it's at Hershey or XL or anywhere else, or Whitaker or whatever, at that moment, how much money you had, what kind of girlfriend you had, what relationship you were, what kind of car you were driving. It's the only medium or experience that really timestamps your memory in life or who you were at that particular time. There's no other medium or experience that does that, but live entertainment does it.
Yeah, you're
and
not wrong.
Yeah, that's the beautiful
my
part.
mind right there. Oh my God, you're absolutely, because I just thought back to
Right. Think about your favorite show.
When I went to see Panic at the Disco, I know I was driving a Honda Element. I knew who I was dating. I know what time of the year it was. My God, you blew my mind. Right there.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Music is magic, man. Music is healing. Like you said, music can freeze frame memories. Music transcends language.
Yeah.
Music is such. It's a blessing. It's crazy.
And I'll tell you what else it is. It's yours, and it's your secret, and it's who you are, and whatever you like is different than what he likes. This guy likes or whatever, but it's your secret, and you know about it. And when you're going to go see a show, that's your experience. I mean, I like this guy. I got turned on to this guy named Neil Bakar or something like that, and he's in Texas or something like that. And he's this kind of twangy guy, but I love this guy. I've never seen him. I don't know if he's breaking out or whatever, but it's my secret. I know about it, and I know you guys don't know about it. And then if you share it with someone else, that's how you relate to other people. That's why music and live entertainment is so special for so many people. And it's just, I'm defined by music. My passion kind of bleeds through in it. But, whatever your
I don't know if
album
anyone's picking up on that right now, the way you're talking.
But
you obviously very unpassionate about this.
Sorry. But it's really who you are, and it really breaks down to the fabric. But there's so many artists out there. Yeah. There are so many artists out there that even when you look at Apple Music, I don't even know sometimes how Apple Music or Spotify work. Sometimes these playlists come to me, I'm like, where did this come from? Why is this coming up all the time? Yeah. But it's always something that relates to you, and it's always something that works for you. And then it's kind of yours. And then the next time out, and then you hear it on XPN radio, and then you're listening on the regular radio, or then it's in your car,
Now all of a sudden, Facebook,
you're
open
cooking
Facebook, and now there's an advertisement for a show for them that's coming near you.
And you're like, wait a minute, now the Struts are coming to town, or Paul Cawthon is going to be here, stuff like that. And it's yours. That combination of those different artists are yours. And we take so much pride. In the different kind of music that we like. It's our own music collection in our head, and it defines who we are. Yeah. And I think that's the beautiful thing of life, and how it just intertwines.
I don't think there's anything cooler than when you have that one unique artist that not a lot of people know about,
that
you like, and you meet someone else and they know them, that joy you get in your heart, wait, you like them too? You
right.
Like this giddy little kid.
That's happened to me a ton of times. I'm like, wait, you know this person?
Uh-huh.
And they're like, yeah, I love it. I'm like, oh, that's great.
I'm not
we
alone.
just become best friends.
Exactly.
You get all excited, and that's why when people come together to see shows, they get excited too, because they just love that passion. They just love that experience of being together. And then, everyone just goes their own way and goes home.
Well, I think that's what kind of drives the music community as a whole, is because everybody has that love for everyone, where they want everyone to have that feeling and feel that way and have their own experiences.
Yeah, and live entertainment just really just pushes those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
and really just brings things together.
And speaking of passion, and speaking of all this stuff and all these experiences, I mean, you've put on some pretty legendary shows. So I just got to ask, tell us about some of your favorite shows that you had to put on. Yeah, if you could boil it down to a top 3.
Yeah.
I mean, there's big ones and small ones. I mean, you can have, I could say Paul Cawthon. I could say The National. Death Cab for Cutie. We had them a ton of times.
That was one of my favorites.
KG Elephant, Young the Giant. You know,
it's true. Yeah,
Brothers Osborne. You know, dude, there's just so many ones that we put. Saint Motel, some random small band, but they mean so much to me, like on such a level, because maybe I went through tough stuff with it. Or Mike Campbell. How about this?
Sure. Yeah.
We had Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you this little background story. So Mike Campbell comes in. Tom Petty's obviously passed on. So I show in. I usually show up around 1 o'clock, 12 o'clock to meet the artist, meet the tour manager, just say, hey, what's up? What do you guys need?
Get some face
how
value
are we
going.
doing, right? And I walk in the back room, and it's Mike Campbell. You know, dreadlocks, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's all Tom Petty gear. It's all Tom Petty in the Heartbreaker boxes and cases. And I'm just like, like you're just like, and that moment, and then Mike comes on, and then you feel Tom through Mike. And I'm a huge Petty guy.
Yeah.
And then you feel Tom that misses Mike. And then you feel him going on the stage singing, you know, Free Fallin' or something like that. And that whole experience
that's like a magical experience.
Right.
The way you picked up on that and the way you described it, like you can hear Petty coming through Mike.
Oh, I felt
you
he
can
was
hear
so
Mike
sad.
missing Tom.
He missed him, dude. So when he showed up, he had a notebook with him and like a little bottle or something like that. And he starts working on stuff as soon as he shows up. And he's got his hat on and his sunglasses on and his wild fedora and all this stuff. So funnier story, and I tell this story all the time, but he had to get home at night. So show's over. Band is still cleaning up their stuff.
Yeah.
And he's just got to go on his strap. And they're like, you know, he kind of wants to get back to the hotel. He's at the hotel. This was at XL. He's at the hotel out in Union Deposit. Off of Eisenhower. He's at the Sheraton.
Okay.
At the Sheraton. So I'm like, I'll take you back. So he gets in my car. I sit him in the passenger seat. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock in the morning. He has his sunglasses on and his hat. And I'm just driving in the car. There's not even a soul on the road, on the highway. Mm. And I just look over and I'm like, oh my God, it's Mike Campbell. and we're driving in the car with his sunglasses on. I'm just talking about Florida State University, how they just made a tribute, or how Tom's in the Hall of Fame, or like, and he just felt like, I felt sad for him because then he got out of the car and got in the hotel, but it was such a magical moment because he produces all this love and he's one of the greatest musicians ever. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like being with David Gilmour. It's like just being with someone that's like, he's worked with Stevie Nicks, he's worked with all these artists and stuff like that. You know, he was just out with Fleetwood Mac, you know, like, and there he is, you know, in our little world, but he still wants to stay close to Tom because he's playing the music on stage and that's his connection, the live music. Is the synapse, you know,
and then through that,
I could tell you stories all night, guys. Just so you know, trust me. Yeah.
So we'll have to have you back on the other show, at some point when we get that back up and running.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
But oh my gosh, that's just. And now I was going to ask, and it might maybe be the same answer. What would you say is your greatest achievement in the promoting world?
I just think giving people happiness. I think just pulling it off, because sometimes shows, no one really realizes how hard the work is.
Yeah.
With someone that books a show, you have to do a show a year before it happens, before the tickets go on sale, or announcing it, or marketing, or getting that person to take their hard-earned money that they work so hard with, to part with that money, to buy a ticket, to come see something that you're doing, to get something to spend that night, to get a babysitter to come out, to be at one of your shows. And the Riverfront Park shows and the XL shows, they were just all so grand and all so magical. And to just have those off with the team, because you realize the stage has to come in, the lights have to go up, and the sound has to go up. And there's such a big team of people that you didn't have to ask a lot of people to do stuff because everyone took such pride in doing it. And to lead those types of teams, I took a lot of pride in. Like but just to affect people's lives. When you see people leave shows and they're happy.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that's, boy, I'll always be very thankful if I don't do another show. Just be blessed that I had those opportunities, because to see people happy like that, and to know that, like I said, that experience of that one-on-one or that timestamp, or to have people, you know, come down, you know, to see Orville Peck. You know, that's
which is a legend in his own right.
Yeah, but just to have all those different artists. Because normally Central PA didn't get a sniff at those kind of artists that to do what we did and to do what I did, you know, I just take great pride in, you know, and I'm really thankful and blessed for the people that helped me out and live that dream.
No, you should take great pride in that. I mean, you've done amazing things, especially for the Central Pennsylvania music scene.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I've got two final questions for you.
Okay. Two.
Quick fire?
Two.
I don't know if they're going to be quick fire answers, but I'm going to make them quick fire.
I talk a lot.
Obviously, you.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
I'm
We
right
like
there
that.
with you, man. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I got the gift of gab. Obviously, you're passionate about this, and
Yeah.
you're doing it all for the right reasons, and you have the right experiences.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So with that, you're not going to stop. I mean, you just
I
said,
hope
like,
not.
you know, even if I don't have another show, you're
I hope
grateful for
not.
that, but
Yeah.
you're not going to. So where, if Frank has his way, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Follow
Yeah,
up
that's a
by-
great question. I can tell you this though. I've always thought in life, even if with radio, I was live entertainment, you're never in the same place every 5 years. Every 5 years, you're somewhere different. I think I'll be somewhere around events and relationships and partnerships, and just I'm good at putting things together. I'm good at building things out of nothing. I'm good at saying, why not? Why can't we do this? I mean, Riverfront Park, when we looked at that, it's the smallest little park.
Yeah.
But we put an SL3. It was me and John Harris. And John, I'll give him full credit. We walked it. I was like, no way, because we were thinking City Island, or we were thinking something like this for something bigger. And we went down to look at it, and John and I were there, and John's like, well, we can do this. And I'm just like, it's tight for a massive, because those stages were really big.
Yeah.
But we shoehorned that in, and we said, why not? Let's do something grand. Let's do something different. And that's, to be able to do that, you know, I've done that my whole career, and just to do stuff that say, why not? Why not? Let's try it. You know,
Yeah.
I like that. Why not?
Why not? Let's put something together. So yeah. So where am I going to be 5 years from now? I don't know, but I couldn't tell you I'd be right here 5 years from 5 years ago. I mean, because I was doing something else, and then that magical 6-7 years came along, and it's just it's going to continue. My life's going to go on. And everything's great, but you know, you never know where you're going to be. You just got to believe in yourself, and you kind of just have to say, you know, why not? You know, and just don't give up. You know.
I agree.
The second question that I had, then we like to ask all of our guests this. Obviously, you're very passionate about this. You're very passionate about the music scene, and what you're doing is special for the music scene.
Yeah.
But I want to ask, what do you think is so special about Central PA and its music scene? Because we've gotten a lot of the same answers, but we've also gotten a lot of vastly different answers.
I don't think it's exploded yet. I think it's underrated. I think it being in the middle between, you know, DC, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, you're the same distance from all the majors.
Yeah.
The music industry has traditionally considered us a secondary market and have not wanted to come here. What we've done is really made this a destination market that's pretty much, you know, a pretty solid market. And let's not even look past the monster and blessing that is in our backyard. That we have a really small town here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hershey Park Arena and Hershey Park Stadium gives us more major shows than usually some major cities get.
Yeah.
The live entertainment that Live Nation and that they're doing down there, we should not overlook or take for granted. We are very lucky to have those types of shows being in here, because most people have to drive hours just to get to a major show, to a major venue.
And some of these cities are
and
bigger
we
than
had
us.
it right here in our backyard. And what we've done in the past 6 years is complement that and do that, you know, to bring it to a point where we're not a secondary market, but we'll get sniffs and looks and like, hey, Harrisburg can support it. They can take care of the artists. They can sell tickets. They can do a lot of things that they didn't think that, you know, Williamsport can't do, or, you know, other small towns can't do. So, you know, I think that. Now, the local scene's a different story. You know, that's a scene that probably does have to grow and probably doesn't get the credit it does deserve. I think Lancaster's doing a great job with what they're doing. I think it's a different vibe than what's in Harrisburg.
Sure.
But I think there's a lot of hidden gems out there. But I think Harrisburg has some room to grow with the local scene and the smaller scene like that. But I think, you know, with the shows that they have, you know, at the club scene, with what XL is doing and some other clubs, I think it's growing. I think it's growing at a really good pace. And you're probably going to see some bigger things come out of some other venues that may have been quiet in the past.
That's
All
awesome,
right.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome.
So I hope.
Well, thank you for
Are
listening.
you all on board? Let's do it, right?
Absolutely.
Let's do
man,
it.
Dude, why not?
Yeah.
Can I
Why
sell
not?
you a car? Let's do it.
Just go ahead and sign for me right here. We'll get that to you in 72 months. break it down. But dude, thank you so much for coming on and letting
Yes.
us pick your brain.
Yeah.
Anytime, guys. I'd
Dude.
love to come back anytime.
Seriously, man, we
Love it.
really appreciate it. That was awesome.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Love it.
You got it. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And we are sitting down with Spencer from Public Disco Porch. Sorry, I always keep wanting to say Panic because it's like I don't know like disco, but I know it's Public Disco Porch. So,
Yeah.
dude, thank you so much for coming down and sitting with us.
Oh man, thanks for having me.
Dude,
Of course.
we're stoked to have you here, man.
Yeah, dude, I don't get out to Dillsburg that often, but the drive, even in the dark, was beautiful. There was no lights on anywhere. It was like driving past like little farm houses on the side of the road. It was awesome. Had a great time.
Yeah.
It's like because you have like almost like your own farm
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
live on right now. We were talking about that off camera and everything. It's awesome, man. So you're like, oh, cool. It's like I didn't even leave home.
It's
Yeah,
like you're
yeah.
taking a trip to grandma's cottage. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
pretty neat.
exactly.
So, dude, tell us how this band came to be. Like, tell us what makes Public Disco Porch Public Disco Porch.
So I grew up in York, Pennsylvania, and the narrative of that town and area, I mean, maybe even South Central Pennsylvania at large, was like kind of like, I can't wait to get out, or I can't wait to go do something else other than the stuff that this place has to offer, which never really resonated with me. But I did end up leaving to go to the Midwest and spend some time out there playing music. But kind of always wanted to make it back here because I traveled a lot and saw like the hills in Tuscany look a lot like parts of 83, like the drive in those like kind of like meandering hills. And so even when I was in Chicago, I was kind of writing songs about like nostalgia and references to York, Pennsylvania anyway, as sort of like a totem or reference point for lyrical content. And then so when me and my wife moved back, it kind of really took hold with this band as like a way to talk about the practices and rituals of South Central Pennsylvania and like the people that walked the land before us. And because I do think it's like really reverent, and I think it's like very beautiful. I think there's a lot of really positive spirit that like this land holds. So
Yeah.
that's like what the ethos of the band started to be, and that's like what I started writing songs about, and it became really easy to write songs about that as opposed to like my own take on the world or something.
Yeah.
But so yeah, and then like the past 2 years, it really formed as a 4-piece. Whereas before, when I was living away from town, writing songs about it, I was collaborating with musicians and friends from like all over the world. Like I'd have friends from France sing on a song and sample that, and I would build like
What?
albums out of like these little snippets of audio samples. But now it is a 4-piece rock and roll band that is kind of not just leaning into the spirit of stuff that, you know, we're giving allegiance to. It now has kind of taken on its own aesthetic, texture, and its own sort of like beast.
It's got its own unique sound.
I think so. I mean, I say that as like one of the harshest critics of the band. I maybe 5 months ago, I saw a video of us playing a song, and there was a swirl happening on stage that I just had never really seen or had never really felt like I was contributing to in any other band that I was a part of. And it was like, okay, yeah, this is, that's a band, you know. So
That's awesome, man. I mean, and obviously you're doing something right. I mean, because you are CPMA winners, man. Like your best folk band.
we are best folk band. Maybe folk metal sometimes, but
Dude, I'm all about this. I call it. Me and my girlfriend kind of dubbed it like country core. Like you have like groups like Hardy that'll like play country, and then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, like does screaming. And I was like, dude, I didn't know this is like what we needed, but like I'm here for it. Like so, like dude, if you guys want to
Murray
start
just
going
dropped
that
his
route and
country
everything, dude, I'm all for it, man.
there's some of that on the new record for sure. It's moments of reverence, and you know, sometimes there's just a single creaking violin, but then other times we click on a metal zone and throw some dirt at you for sure.
Hell yeah, dude. I mean, that you're referring to Benediction, right? It
Yeah.
just came out in August.
Yep.
So I'll have to. I didn't get all the way through it yet, so I'm gonna have to keep listening to it then. But I mean, yeah, congratulations. I mean, you just put out is that your first, second, third album now?
I mean, yeah, I've been making music in different iterations, and I guess it's like technically maybe the 4th album or EP or something.
The lines get blurred now,
yeah,
like what
yeah.
they really are.
So the fourth recording project of Public Disco Porch, but
Got it.
it feels like the most succinct, direct, pointed thing that I've ever done or been a part of. Like I'm really proud of it.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, man. As you should.
Where did you draw the sound from?
That's a good question. I mean, like obviously everybody has influence, and maybe even like what I was kind of talking about where 5 months ago or whenever I was like wrapping up the work on this music, I noticed that influence kind of had started to fade away a little bit, which was exciting to see.
Yeah, that's cool.
To like that you but that comes from excavation and trying a bunch of stuff, right? And like
Yeah.
having people influence you and listening to music that you love, that imprints on you, and then you like try to do that, and that's not a bad thing. And maybe
No.
that was like historically what was the experimentation or the excavation is like, what does my voice sound like? How do I mix my voice? How do I balance a guitar that I want to be very heavy that also interrupts like where I'm singing? That kind of level of detail just kind of started happening with that album Benediction, and it really kind of sounds, it's where we recorded it in this like outbuilding at my place. It has really started to take shape of like what the band sounds like, because the wood stove is in there and it rattles when the drum hits. So I like that, where you can find a sense of space and atmosphere that is specific to something.
Rawness.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we do all of the professional tricks that you do to make something sound good, but like, it's its own animal right now.
Yeah,
Dude, that's awesome.
that is so sweet.
I love that kind of stuff, man. I like when you can almost find like what's the word I'm looking for? Like character from the sound. Like it has its like, obviously it has its own sound, but like when the sound kind of builds its own like persona, like it's like it has its own flavor and everything. And like I love when you can find that, because there's like our last guest we had on, Frank, he was saying like, there's so many bands out there, so many of them can be within the same realm of sound and everything, but then you'll find that one that just like, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
I like the flavor of that sound, and
Yeah.
it's like it just sticks out to you.
Definitely.
And to kind of tie into that and what you were saying as well earlier off air, I feel like we should probably bring this back up. You were talking about some of the things you do to mix your music that's a little bit unique.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Can we kind of go back over that for the listeners?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm not like I know that's I think that is a big part of what is happening. Like the band has had some really cool opportunities that I didn't think this kind of music would maybe be allocated, but I think a lot of that has to do with aesthetic, texture, and attention to atmosphere within its own package. And myself and the other guys in the band do think about that and like relish and have fun in that aspect of it. So yeah, the recording process, we don't really put out that much or something, or like, I don't know if it's interesting, but I know there's gearheads out there that like that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a company in York, Pennsylvania called ATR Magnetics, and it is the premier tape manufacturer for the world. And they have, Betty is the sweet woman who owns and runs it, and she's just in her office all the time in this warehouse.
Shout out, Betty.
Yeah.
Shout out Betty for sure, dude. And so I go down there and got a whole bunch of reels, 2-inch, 1/4-inch. I have a bunch of tape machines in my little loft area that we record, and it's really fun to experiment with, drawing a bunch of Sharpie onto a reel tape and seeing what it does to a drum bus, and then run that back into whatever session you're mixing. But a lot of those mixing moves on this album specifically are done on an analog 32 channel console, where we're like making mixing moves and basically using a computer as a way to store more tracks. So you have like more things that can kind of be stored in a warehouse, but then the moves are printed from there to a console to tape. And the masters that you hear on Spotify are 1/4-inch ATR tape.
That's
That's wild, man.
I don't know a single other person doing that.
Like
I'm
said
sure
before,
there's
it's like a
people out
lost art, man.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, it is tedious. You cut tape and you start finding like, you're actually doing splicing for like the actual mixes. I love that stuff, like tinkering, and it feels more musical to like turn a knob than it does to like move your mouse or something. So the more I can have all of my hands on my music at any time is more exciting, because
It's about that connection, man.
yeah, changing like an EQ sweep when you're doing that on a console as opposed to some sort of visualizer is more tactile, and there's texture to it.
It's genuine.
It's like
yeah.
driving an old Ferrari. You feel everything.
Yeah, more like a shitty Ford or something. Is the one that I have.
The farm vehicle
Yeah, yeah.
has the farm license plate on it.
Lots of rust. You know,
Yeah.
maybe some of the channel strips don't always work. You gotta
The truck that would inspire a country artist.
Yeah, sure.
That's exactly right.
Like
Yeah.
Waylon, like Waylon.
Exactly right. That's awesome, man. Like that's. How did you know that you wanted to do that? Like, because I feel like I said, I feel like it's almost like a lost art. So
Yeah.
like, and you already know what you're doing on the computer. So like, what like drew you? Like, how did you know that's the route you kind of wanted to explore, just to even explore, and then settle on you like, yeah, absolutely, this is what I'm looking for.
I think it's part of what I was saying, excavation. Like I think about from the writing process to like dig something up and bring it up to the air and watch it burn off. The only way you can do that with like the process of mixing is that same way of like experimenting and digging. And like with a computer or software, there's like really good emulation, but then I mean I just had the realization or revelation or something where I was looking at a Kramer tape plugin that was basically trying to emulate a tape sound, and I had just walked by at the antique store. There was a Sony tape machine, so I was like, I'm just gonna go try it to see if it's the same, and it was more fun. It's just like it takes longer and it's more tedious, and you get frustrated, but
So we understand why the emulator exists.
Yeah, for sure,
But
man, for sure.
You want to get your hands dirty with it.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think that I have two little girls, and one of the more like immediate and impactful moments of my life truly was when I showed her a typewriter. My oldest, she's 5 years old now, but this is maybe when she was 2. I was typing on a typewriter because I have a thing that's called the local songbook, and I find all like the local bands that I like, and then I type their. I have a playlist that's basically on an old typewriter, and so I was showing her this,
That's awesome. That's so cool.
If you hit a typewriter and it goes whoosh, and then it like slaps the ink ribbon, she immediately went whoa and tried to look around to the other side, whereas like a tablet or a computer is zeros and ones, and it's designed for the human brain to just kind of like intuitively figure it out, and you don't kind of really think when you're using an iPad or your phone or something.
Yeah.
Just like we were talking about, it's like good to have stuff like a bonsai tree to get your hands off of like
Yeah.
technology. I mean, technology is incredible, but sometimes like a return to physical things is important and grounding. And for me, like a guitar being plugged into an amplifier is very different than just like plugging it into an audio interface. So I wanted that feeling of like the typewriter and diming an amplifier for a guitar to translate to basically like every piece of our music.
Dude, that's awesome.
That is really cool, man. You are certainly extremely passionate about this, man.
Like it's super deep too. Like
Yeah.
it's like I mean, there's
Captivating.
yeah. Like I mean, obviously we've plenty of musicians in the scene and everything, and like no one is better or worse than each other in their own right.
Definitely.
But it's like you almost took like being a musician, and you went like back to like the roots of like what does it like what did the OGs do? What does it actually mean to be a musician? Like you said, you could shred on the guitar. That's awesome. You know that, and you plug into an interface, and I can do all these crazy things on it. And it's like, yeah, cool. You are also a musician, and there is a crowd for that. There's a party for that. But you're like, but how do I be a musician? Like with my hands, like all the way through, start to finish.
Maybe that was it. I think I had a moment where a few years ago I was thinking about hanging it all up. I just like was kind of over it. was sick of like hearing myself try, like recording yourself in isolation is you start to fall into like an echo chamber, just trying too hard or something. And a lot of friends kind of said that would be not a good idea, but that spirit of like trying to be like, what am I doing? Like, what is the point of doing music song? Kind of like releasing the self, being like the focus of being me, or having a ring light that like pushes in on you so that you can garner some TikTok views or something, wasn't of interest. It was that kind of stuff. Like, what is the tangible thing that I can leave behind that like my daughter might find in the attic someday? Like when I'm gone, she can then see the tape machine, see this record that is a document, and then can put it on and be like, oh yeah, that's someone that was really trying. And then obviously figuring out the source material of like singing songs about the Susquehanna or the ritualistic healings of the South Central Pennsylvania Dutch, like that kind of stuff was like really charging for me lyrically, to find purpose in like figuring out what am I going to play through a distorted amplifier. And it made it more fun. So yeah, I think it's like figuring out what is a musician is obviously different for everybody, and it's equally valid for everybody.
Yeah.
But for me, the thing was this sort of return to physical things.
You want to leave your physical footprint.
I think so. Yeah.
That's sick,
I think
dude.
so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm not even just saying this for like the sake of the show or the sake of the views, but like literally, you kind of mind blew me, because it's like, I consider myself a musician. Danny does as well. Chris does, and everything. Like we've all done things, but it's like everyone like that. You can be like, oh, I want to be a musician, and you can dedicate yourself to a craft on an instrument or whatever. And it's like, but like you said, everyone's gonna have their influence, and it's like, okay, cool, like that influences me. I've learned how to have that influence me. Now, how do I make it? How do I make my own sound from that? But it's like, and that's typically where it stops. You're like, cool. How do I make my own sound? But like literally, how do I make my own sound? Yeah. Like, and like you just took it like one step deeper, and it's just like, I never thought about doing something like, oh, like maybe if I didn't use like an SM58 or whatever, like maybe if I used something else or whatever, if I tried like, running it through this type of maybe that could have like jogged my memory, like as a vocalist, like how would I get more tangible with my sound?
Yeah.
Like, and that's crazy, man. Like that never even like crossed my mind, honestly.
Well, even with like, different instruments, there's a million different tools you can use. Even for like percussion, you have the Yellow Submarine there. With guitars, you have capos and slides and stuff like that. But whenever it comes to the whole music, it's like, oh yeah, you can compress it, you can mix this and throw on this effect. But what you did is just went a whole nother step further, took a step back in time, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think it's actually maybe like a step. Excuse me. It's interesting that it's like being perceived right now as a step forward or something, because it truly was like a limitation. I also like working within guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
That sometimes can be like a little bit more inspiring if you're limited to just like saying, I'm only going to use a violin and a guitar to write a song. Whereas like a tape machine, you only have so many knobs. You're like limited to making decisions, and that like helps me finish things. And I also kind of had this another sort of revelation through working with that workflow, was that everybody plays guitar. Like that's not like an extraordinary thing. Like, I mean, you just mentioned all of us here are musicians, and like that's a beautiful thing, and we can like rally around bands that we like, and that's
absolutely
like so healthy for society indefinitely, right?
For sure.
However, like I think I've been trying to lean into being extra space ordinary, like simple ingredients. Like it's funny sometimes when people come up or listen to the record and ask like, what did you use to mix and master? It's like a console and a tape machine.
Yeah.
It's like not like a special thing. It's like an extraordinarily ordinary thing. And I think that's been fun to try and like play with that space, especially that headspace with mixing and recording, to be extra space ordinary.
I think it's even cooler to like kind of,
awesome.
I don't know if you ever put it into like perspective, but it's like, you said 3 years ago you were thinking about maybe hanging up music or whatever, and you decided essentially, for all intents and purposes, you're like, I'm going to take 2 steps backwards to take 1 step forward.
Yeah,
and taking that 2 steps backwards, like you didn't quit, and now you're an award-winning, like recognized act. And it's like, isn't it crazy how like things like that work? You know what I mean? Sometimes it does take going back to the roots. Maybe it does take, let's take 2 steps backwards because maybe the path forward is easier 2 steps ago. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's crazy, man. Like, honestly, this was a very cool, deep thought, enlightening like conversation, man.
Yeah.
Like I have like other questions like I want to ask you, like, about like music and everything, but like, dude, your process was just like enthralling.
Mind-blowing enough. Yeah. Cool. Wow. Oh my goodness. Well, we are kind of running out of time here, but I don't. We're not, kicking you off or anything. Is there any other show, like anything else coming up you want to promote? I know you just came out with your new album back in August. Any new music coming out or shows or benefits, things you got going on that you might want to shout out for any listeners to check out in the future?
Oh yeah, we always got stuff cooking for sure. I mean, our shows are kind of wrapping up on this Friday. We're playing tomorrow at Love Drafts. And that's the
awesome
one of the bands that I put on the local songbook. Their name is Babel Map, and they just released a record called Teeth, and we're opening their album release tomorrow at Love Drafts.
Awesome.
So, but I mean that'll probably have happened. But yeah, I mean I think we're gonna take a little bit of time in the winter to record some more stuff that is there, and then the spring and summer I think just shows until we drop.
Heck yeah,
absolutely,
man.
dude.
I love that.
The only other question I want to ask, because we ask every guest, especially as a musician, from Central PA. Obviously, you grew up in Central PA, left Central PA, and were drawn back to it, and you are an award-winning musician. What do you think is so special about Central PA? What do you think makes Central PA so special when it comes to the music scene? Why do you think we have such a rich music culture here? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
No. I
Cue the Jeopardy music. No, I'm joking.
I think that there is a sense of deep camaraderie in recognizing, even more so lately than maybe even in the past. I think this like sort of like we're going through like an ego death with local music where people don't really care their own path to whatever they deem success or something. And I think success when it comes to music is a frivolous term, but like there's so much value in the different corners that South Central Pennsylvania has to offer. Like Ron and Ian are going to be at First Capital Dispensing Company playing Monday Night Snack Club for 3 hours as happy as they possibly can. Like our band is going to be putting together like a bash and just thrashing our guitars, and that's very different. But like all of these different musical entities have like their own validity, and like we're starting to champion one another with stuff like that you all are doing. The Central Pennsylvania music sort of group as a whole, I think, is just like an unbelievable champion for live music. So the local scene is rich with like a camaraderie that is in our blood, and we don't care who gets the light for a particular time, and when it comes on to that person, I think that they're trying to like shine it on other people too, which I think is what makes it special and exciting to be a part of.
Dude, the only other thing I have to say about this whole thing before we wrap this up is like I honestly think your time here, honestly, I think a lot of artists can benefit from it, because the way you are a wordsmith, dude. Like 100%. Like the way you have a way with words
Thanks,
is
man.
like crazy. The way you said that was awesome, and I think the way you described your writing process, I think there are a lot of people that are probably going to listen to your episode, and it's probably going to get their gears turning. I think you, without meaning to, may have contributed like a major piece of advice to like a lot of artists without even meaning to, and
Cool,
I think
man.
that's awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
It's super enlightening, man. This is
Hell yeah.
yeah, man.
But you do have a song for us.
Yeah,
Correct?
yeah. I'll play some version of the song for sure.
All right,
Awesome.
sweet, man. Well, we're looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
So let's without any further ado, let's get to the live performance. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. This is really fun.
Of
Awesome.
course.
Thank you, man.
Hey Matthew, how many? Did you count up all the holes in their hands? Did they Lazarus themselves back down? Or did they raise up like you said? Hey Matthew, where are they? Why don't our tongues know their names? Did your pen miss where they ended up? On a solemn blade of grass now. Hey Matthew, what happened? Why don't our tongues speak their names? There's a nail buried in my head now. You put a nail in my brain. Can you drive it home? Can you drive it home? Can you drive